welcome. We are so glad to have you joining us today for our webinar with Doug Nix of Stillwater M&A Advisors. I'll bring Doug in very shortly here, but before I do that, let me provide a little bit of information about some upcoming opportunities here at FCCI. One of those is immediate. It's right now. An opportunity to connect with others through the chat feature of this webinar. Please do take advantage of this time. Introduce yourself to the FCCI community as we pray that that there is growth in kingdom activity, and that activity is propelled as a result of your involvement in this webinar series. So if you would, please do that. And if you have not yet registered for the FCCI International Conference in Lake Tahoe, that's September 15 through 18, please do that soon by going to conference.fcci.org. And we'll look forward to being in person with many of you for those powerful days of inspiration, encouragement. Our team is busy being a part of making plans and preparations for that conference. And so we would love to have you there. We'll be welcoming Donald Miller, Richard Blackaby, Jordan Rayner, and others who will be on site and delivering some compelling keynotes during that time together. Also want to encourage you, if you have not done so, to take advantage of the FCCI Pathway to Purpose podcast, where so many great keynote speakers from past FCCI conferences and events are a part of that weekly podcast delivery. You can find that podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and most of your favorite podcast streaming platforms and services. So we are diving into some excellent content today with Doug Nix. And Doug, it is an honor to have you with us. Thanks for carving out these moments in your schedule.
Oh, it's a great joy to be here and just talk about things that we're passionate about. So thanks for the invitation.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we are thrilled to learn more about Stillwater, more about what you do. You had mentioned early on in our conversation that this Stillwater, the founding of Stillwater, was a bit of a spiritual experiment for you. Explain that to me.
Yeah. Well, how much time do we have?
I know this is your passion.
It is. Let me just give you a bit of a background. I grew up in this environment where if you had a higher calling on your life, you'd go into full-time ministry, right? And then if you didn't have that high calling in your life, well, I guess you could go into business. Right. And then you'd have a high calling when it was time for fundraising and cutting checks. Okay, that was good. But along the way, I really got to have a different perspective on what it meant to be a child of the Most High. And that was that my whole life was sacred, right? Everything that I did was part of that sacred child of God, building the kingdom. Right. And then so this growing conflict started bubbling up in me to say, well, how do you live that out in a business environment, right? And I've seen so many Christian business guys that they go, okay, well, I've got Harvard, I've got Wharton. They're telling me how to run businesses, and I'm going to do it that way. And I'm going to live a morally good life, but I'm going to follow the world in how do you run a business. And I thought, wow, I wonder if there's a different way to run a business, right? How can you, as a mature son or a mature daughter, actually tap into a supernatural God who knows everything, is everywhere, and can do anything he wants. And so that was a spiritual experiment. We said, well, my wife and I, we put our heads together, go, how can we start something and build on that premise? And not necessarily focused on on serving Christian business owners, but serving the secular marketplace, right? And that's where we started, and I'll unpack some of that a little bit later in what we've done and what we're doing. But that was 22 years ago that we started it. It's been pretty cool. Not always easy, but pretty cool.
Sure. Well, you had before we came on here just a little bit ago, you were sharing with me an illustration that I thought was just so powerful. Maybe I'm stealing some thunder from later. I don't know if you'd share this later, but I think it was just a part of our conversation. But just could you unpack that a little bit? The sailboat analogy. I would love to share that.
Okay, So you're going to see a recommendation on the slide to read this book, Opportunity Leadership by Dr. Roger Perrott. He's president of Belhaven University in Mississippi. So, so I'll give him credit for the analogy, but it deals with strategic planning and life in Christ. And so the analogy is there's two types of boats. There's a power boat and a sailboat. So when we think of traditional strategic planning, we have our eyes set on a distant port where we're going to go to that port. And we fire up the motor, and it doesn't matter where the storm comes or where the wind blows, we're pressing on to that port. And then what would the world say? By hell or high water, we're getting there.
Right.
But imagine you go out now in a sailboat and the wind shifts. Well, what do? You follow the wind, and then it goes back and you follow the wind. And so the application for strategic planning is if we believe that we're really in business with the Lord, how do we open ourselves up to his influence on the day-to-day activities? And that's being like the sailboat and not the powerboat, right? The powerboat just keeps going. The sailboat, though, it says, oh, the wind of the Spirit has come. Let me discern it properly.
Yes.
And then let me respond. Let me tack to the left or port or starboard, whatever. What if we have sailors in our midst? And then we'll go back to the right. And we might end up in a totally different port. But we know that if we're following the wind of the Spirit and we're co-laboring in that capacity, then that makes all the difference in the world. And it's not a recipe for not planning, right?
Right.
But it's a recipe for saying we co-labor with the Almighty.
Yeah, and what a powerful market to be co-laboring in. I had pulled some stats in earlier about this mid-market that you're in. 48 million employees in the U.S., a third of the U.S. economy that's represented there. So share with us just a little bit about how you stepped into your role in the mid-market and the influence that you're able to have there.
Well, so my background is I'm a CPA, came out of PricewaterhouseCoopers many years ago, got fired from a job, couldn't find one, and I started consulting. Okay. And that led one thing to the next. And we found that there was a need for to have a sophisticated approach to smaller companies, like a Goldman Sachs or a McKinsey type of approach to smaller companies. But these people would never get the benefit of that. So we structured Stillwater to say, how can we provide that level of insight, that level of experience to a smaller sized companies who need it probably more than the Fortune 500 need it, right? And so that kind of drew us into that. And then it's just been the absolute blessing of the Lord that we've been able to, on the selling of our clients' business, helping them sell businesses, we have been able to accomplish breathtaking results. Like one company we sold recently, the owners were expecting 100 million, and we sold it for 200 million.
Wow.
Like those are the things that we do on an ongoing basis because of the sophisticated approach that we take. And now the impact that has on the people, and the employees of the business, the owners of the business, the charities that those business owners set up. It's really cool. And I hear stories after the fact where just last week I heard one where one of our clients, they set up a homeless shelter for women with kids in their city with a portion of the proceeds of the sale because they've done so well.
Wow. There you go.
And Christ doesn't say that money is evil. It's the love of money, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
And you'll see one of the key foundations I'll talk about is holding your business with an open hand.
Sure.
And I think when we do that, the world starts to change, right? What is Paul saying in Corinthians? The Lord loves a generous, but really it's a hilarious giver.
Yes.
Right. And that's really the heart, right? We could talk about giving, but let me just put this to you. There is no such thing in the kingdom as a mature believer who's a miser. Okay.
Yeah, that's so true.
Because
Amen.
we are being transformed into the image
Yeah.
of a generous father and a generous son. And if, as we transform into the image of that generous father and generous son, we are, by design, being transformed into generosity.
Mm. I love that.
Hilarious generosity.
Right, hilarious generosity. and
Yeah.
and we had spoken earlier about the fact that you have just a few grandchildren, and how
Oh,
much you learn in that process of being a father and a grandfather, right?
oh yeah. It's extraordinary. I have 12 grandchildren. The oldest 11. The youngest is 2 weeks old, and
Nice.
three
Oh,
children. And it's I learned. I love being a dad. Like, it's
hmm.
just, for me, it's one of the highlights of life. And what I learned is, I learned about what the father heart of God is
Mm,
because of my
yeah.
children. Because I look at my kids, I go, man, I love them so much. I love my grandkids so much. And then scripture tells me that that's just a pale imitation of what our Father and Jesus Christ has for us,
Mm,
right? And then when I
so
can overlook the offenses of my children and my grandchildren, well, how can I walk in condemnation? Because my Father just overlooks and washes away and forgets my sin,
mm,
right? And so it's just been
mm,
reinforced over many, many years about um, the depth of love and
mm,
compassion that the Lord has for us. I was meditating on a psalm just recently, and one of the lines that it really struck me, it said, "And I know, oh God, you are for me." Right?
mm,
I know, oh God, you are for me. And you start moving into that level of understanding and that experience, and all of a sudden life starts to change. I know, God, you are for me, right?
yeah, amen to
And
that.
even in the hard times, I
Hmm.
know God you are for me.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
just as we would be for our kids, our grandkids. Yeah, we learn so much
absolutely, for
in that
sure.
relationship. Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
I'm gonna turn things over to you here, Doug. But before I do, let me just remind our audience about we will have some Q&A at the end. So please do. You can put those questions into the chat, whether you're coming in from LinkedIn or YouTube, wherever you're coming to us from. And if you would just put a Q in front of that, it makes it easy for me to find those questions as you do that. But looking forward to being able to interact some more. But I'll turn things over to you, Doug, and I'll allow you to take your presentation from here.
Thanks, Ken. So what I wanted to help or cover off today was some strategies for exiting your business well. And what we'll do is a little brief introduction to Stillwater, talk about a foundation to build on, then jump into 4 key strategies to drive value, 3 common mistakes to avoid, and then questions. I'm going to try and do this in 30 some odd minutes. I'll do my best, okay? But these are big topics. So let me just start about our spiritual experiment. Um, Michelangelo said, the greatest danger for most of us lies not in setting our aim too high, but in set and falling short, but in setting our aim too low and achieving our mark. And so as I was thinking about Stillwater and what we could do, I wanted to set a high standard for us to shoot at. And the high standard was really around this question of, what would a business look like if all of the leaders actively sought out a God who is all knowing, all present, all powerful, um, and wants to talk to us at every point of our life, including about our business? That was the foundation for it, drawing the supernatural into the business of Stillwater. So we started the business in 2002. And I have to tell you, it was a difficult first few years. I'd underestimated the enormity of the task. I prayed, Lord, I think you have overestimated me. Would you relieve me of this? And from time to time, he did. But I realized that in the enormity of the task, it was a hard issue for me, where I felt that the Lord was saying to me, Doug, there's things in your life, there's your pride, there's your arrogance, there's your selfish ambition that are displeasing and dishonoring to me. So if you want to fill this spiritual experiment, there's changes that are needed in your life. And so, my prayer was, Lord, um, whatever you have to do to make me the man that you want me to be, do it. And if I cry out and tell you to stop, ignore me. So that was the basis of that spiritual experiment. So along the way, one of the very first things we did, I felt the necessity to have a prayer covering. So we hired a company that provides a prayer covering for us, and each month they give us a prayer report. We started generously giving 10% of our revenues, and we started actively practicing what I call listening prayer. And that's for me, it might look different for others, but for me, it's half an hour in the morning or in the evening, depending on how the day has been, where I ask the Lord generally, what would you like me to know, and what would you like me to do? And then I sit and listen, and it's had a magnificent impact on my life and on my business. And so we started saying, well, if it's good for us, it will be really good for our staff. And what we did is then we created a company paid quiet time where the staff, if they want to, so it's optional, not mandatory. If they want to, they can have a quiet time from 9 to 9:30. We respect that. They're sitting at their desk, waiting on the Lord and listening. And then I thought, oh man, because I'm so passionate about it, let me come and I want to be their spiritual mentor, right? And talk to them. And my wife, in her infinite wisdom, said, Doug, that is a really bad idea, because you're also the boss, so you can't do both. So the next step was we hired a chaplain, and each person in our company meets with the chaplain for an hour every second week. And in the rankings now, and this is, so it's not triage like you'd typically think of a chaplain. This is spiritual formation, spiritual direction, and walking on a journey with our staff. And in the what we're doing when we do the employee services or surveys, this is ranked either number 1 or number 2 of the best thing at working at Stillwater. Then we've also clearly articulated our values around people, our company, our faith, and our clients. And then we have a strong founding document. So I thought it would be good just to show when we started Stillwater, this was our founding document. At our core, we must have right standing with God, a continued Christ-centered focus. It's essential that Christ remains a central consideration in all aspects of this business. And we must remember that he's the senior partner, the rainmaker, the ultimate source of insight, wisdom, and knowledge. He goes before to prepare the way. He allows us to accomplish more with less effort. He will bring clients, closings, and favor. Worship and prayer must be a hallmark of the office. And the owners of Stillwater are there to glorify God in all aspects of their life and not make Stillwater the preeminent thing in their life. So that was the foundation. We have honored that. And I don't want you to think that we're perfect. Like we're on a journey that has some missteps, but that's the direction that we're going. We're power boats on this one. We're not sailboats. Okay. So who is Stillwater? So we've talked about it being our spiritual experiment. Today, Stillwater is the largest kingdom-focused investment bank in North America. Now, as I was writing that down, I go, well, that sounds really lofty, but it's really more of a commentary on the type of market we're in. We work in an investment banking market where, as you could probably imagine, money is the god in the industry, and we are one of the few firms that are kingdom focused. Now, it's not kingdom focused in only serving Christian business owners. It's kingdom focused in serving the kingdom and using what we do as part of an evangelism tool, part of an encouragement tool, and part of a ministry to help business owners with their businesses. So we specialize in helping mid-market business owners sell their business extraordinarily well and we've done 120 transactions, again with spectacular results. We have 25 people. We're in 3 offices: Atlanta, Toronto, and Dallas. And we're part of an international uh, network of the leading accounting, law, and advisory firms. So all of that to say, we help our clients buy and sell businesses. We do it really well, and we're growing. So I thought what it would be good to start with is I thought I would share with you one of the vital tools that has been really important to me in my journey. And in fact, this tool is why I'm on this call today. Okay, so let me just share. There's a passage in Isaiah 28, it's 23 to 29. And basically, here's what the thrust of the passage is. In 23, it says, "Consider the farmer." And then 24 and 25 go, "The farmer plants, or when he plows, does he always plow? Or does he keep up breaking up and working? And when he's leveled the surface, is this how he sows, or how does he plant wheat?" And then here, just let this verse ruminate with you. His God instructs him and teaches him the right way. And then 27 and 28 talk about how the harvest happens. And then 29, all this also comes from the Lord Almighty, whose plan is wonderful and whose wisdom is magnificent. So you go, okay, well, that's kind of interesting. Doug, you're not a farmer. Well, I know I'm not a farmer, but God never changes. So I'll tell you, here's how I've taken this and put it into action in my life. And if you were to try this, I suspect you would find the exact same results. Have you ever faced a business problem? You go, how do I deal with this? And you don't know what the answer is? It's all the time. So what I do is I go into one of our meeting rooms. If I'm at the office, I pause, and here's my prayer: Father, I don't know how to do this. And then I explain, develop this referral network, solve this problem, hire people after your own heart, right? As you instructed the farmer, would you instruct me? And then I listen. Wait quietly and listen. Then I write down what I heard. And depending on how radical it is, I will confirm what I heard with my trusted advisors. Say, look, this is what I think the Lord's calling us to do. Do you bear witness with that? And then I go and do it. And I have to tell you that every time that I've done this, the idea is I've waited at most 10, 15 minutes for that solution to come. And in every time that I've implemented it, the results were amazing. So I'll give you an example of that. I was trying to hire administrators for our office who had a strong faith. And I couldn't. We tried headhunters, we tried LinkedIn, we tried all kinds of things, and none of it happened. And the headhunters were saying, look, if you want Christians, then you're going to have to settle for second best. And I wouldn't believe it. I said, no, I don't believe that to be true. So finally I said, okay, Lord, I'm just going to trust you for this. So I went and sat in the meeting room, did that. And then within 10 minutes, now it's probably obvious to you, but it wasn't so obvious to me at the time. It was, get a list of local churches that have, whose faith matches yours. Okay. So, and then just send the pastors a note and say, hey, look, we're looking for this kind of person with this kind of skills and this kind of passion for Christ. Do you know anybody? And 2 weeks later, we'd hired 2 people. And that was, after I had labored, me and my team and I had labored for a long period of time trying to find out who can we hire. And that was just, the Lord did that. So as we go through what we're going to talk about here, it would be good if we could keep that in mind as a methodology. So there's some foundations, I think, that are important as you think about creating value in business. One is we are co-laboring with Christ. Okay, we're not doing this alone. One day I was in prayer. I was just 2 months ago or so. I was just saying, Lord, I feel really lonely here, and a funny thing happened. I felt the Lord respond to me, Doug, if I'm your partner in this, how can you be lonely? And that was that check that came. So a constant reminder of I'm a co-laborer with Christ. And then every business, people need to think of their business as a separate and distinct entity from themselves. Okay. And that separate and distinct entity has to be built for long-term sustainability and growth, that stewardship. And here's the thing, and it must be held in an open hand. And now you say, well, what does that actually mean, Doug? Hold my business with an open hand. So I'll tell you the question I ask myself, and I would encourage you to ask yourself this. If the Lord said to you, and you knew it was Him, He said to you, sell the business and give all the money to a charity, would you do it? Right? In a way, that's what Christ said about that rich young ruler, sell everything you have and follow me. And the reason I think that's a really good test, because it will answer a little bit of the question of, are you prioritizing holding on to this business ahead of prioritizing following Christ in obedience? So that's a test. Sometimes it's not comfortable, but if the answer is, man, that'd be really difficult, that's okay, because that was my answer as well. But I used to say, Father, you would give me the grace to do that if that's what you want. And I want you to know that there are great values to you and rewards for doing well in creating value in your business. So I'm just going to outline 4 key strategies, and I'm going to do that fairly quickly, but I think they're not complex, but they are fundamental and I think sound. So 1 is understand, 2 is professionalize, 3 is de-risk, and 4 is grow profits. So let's talk about understand what you have. So here's the primary thought here. We encourage people, and let me just say, these are things that we did in our business and we are doing in our business today. So this is not textbook. This is actually, we're doing this, and we've seen many of our clients who do well do some or all of these 4 steps. So step back and really understand your business. So I encourage the use of 2 tools. 1 is a 1-page business model. And if you haven't seen it before, there's something called the business model canvas that is quite effective of documenting on 1 page what it is, what your business is, the markets, the people, all of that, the important things in your business. And I'm a big proponent of brevity in that and speed. Don't do a 100-page document, because it'll never be upkept. It'll never keep up, and you probably will not finish it. So 1 page, and then do a profitability tree. So you say, well, what's a profitability tree? So here's what, at the simplest form, it's you start with profits, you break that out into revenues and costs, and then you go to, on your revenues, price per unit times the number of units sold, for example. So, and then the cost, what are your variable costs, fixed costs, and you break those down. You can do this or should do this on 1 page. And the reason for doing it is now you have a really good insight into how your business works. So just for example, if we were an accounting firm, we're a law firm, and we said, okay, what are our revenues? Well, our revenues come from hourly billing. So that's how much per hour times how many hours. What are our costs? Well, we pay people by the hour, and then we have fixed costs like rent and utilities and advertising, communications. And then the variable costs go, how much by hour do we pay, and then how many hours do we use? So now if somebody comes and says, okay, we want to double profits, you have a way now to go through this and say, well, to double profits, we need to increase the number of hours that we're billing. And to do that, we need to increase our hourly costs. We do this on almost every one of our clients, because it allows us to have deep insight in a short period of time into the business. If you can't do it, then I would encourage you to find somebody who can ask, not a consultant necessarily, but somebody you trust who can ask insightful questions about your business to draw that information out of you. We sold a business recently where we did this exercise, and it was a business that had trucking operations and brokerage operations. And by the time we were done, we helped our client to understand the profitability was in the brokerage operation. And they had, because of legacy, they had always thought of themselves as a trucking company with a brokerage operation. And through going through that process with them, they were able to say, oh my goodness, we are a brokerage company with a legacy trucking operation. And the owners told us that one of the single most important things that came out of the preparation was a better understanding of his business. Okay, so that's the one-page business model. What are your unique value drivers? And some of these are hidden, some you don't know, but they're in your business. They're things that sometimes are not obvious in your business. Spend some time digging that out, understanding it. Could be your logistics, it could be your technology, but drill down to the specific as what is really creating the value in your business. And then the third part is understand your customers. Who are your customers and why do they buy from you? And who should be your customers, right? How do they use your product? How do they use your service? So this is understanding what you've got. So now you've got a good understanding of what your business is, how you make money, what's in your business, and who you're serving. So here's the primary action. With your team, write a 3 to 4 page summary that includes the one-page business model and profitability tree, your key value drivers and who you're driving, your customers. Do that and document that well, and then move on. So the next one is professionalize your business. What we've seen in a lot of businesses is the business is built around the person, the owner. I had to face this as well. Like if we wanted to grow Stillwater could not always be about me, right? I had to let go, and I had to bring a group of people in who could take and stand on my shoulders and build take what I built and build it out further. So that's the primary thought. You have to extricate yourself from your business and then move to systematize the business. Okay. So you do this by building a management team and then systematizing and standardizing workflows. If in your business everything is, we have to do this offline, we have to do this specially, we have to do this differently, everything's a unique situation, you will not be able to grow your business and you will not be able to sustain profitability in your business. The key here is to let your business stand alone and then take one process, map it out, and go, how can we streamline this into a series of steps with consistent results and that are recurring and easily handled by our staff? And what you'll see is some really great businesses. Your profitability will improve, but then you'll be able to say, hey, we can hire people now who don't have to have this master level of skills because we just need them to be really good at this one singular function in that standardized workflow. As you move out and you build your business out that way, it allows you to replicate it in other locations and it allows you to grow and scale. So along with that then is reducing job complexity and the need for unique skills. In today's competitive marketplace, when you're looking for high-skilled people, it's expensive and it's hard to do. So as you can reduce job complexity, it simplifies your hiring and your retention. And then the last part, of course, as it always is you got to act like a proper corporation, right? If you want to create value in your business, it needs to look like a business with proper governance, accounting, and accountability. So once we've done that, the next thing the primary thought is build a team that operates the business well without you, using standard processes. And so here'd be a challenge for you. Go away for a month. Turn your phone off and don't answer your emails. and see what happens to your business. If the thought of doing that causes heart palpitations, then odds are you really need to do this and do it well and soon. So risk and vulnerabilities. I'm not sure if you remember this here, but this is the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore in late March, and that's the Dali that hit it. That was massive interruption, and I'm sure that the owners of the ship did not think that they'd have a $2 billion bill later in the morning when they got to the office. But this can happen to business, right? So when we're thinking about a business, here's what I found is that business owners are okay with risk because they really understand and they've got a long track record of dealing with it. But when you come time to sell your business and people are looking at your business, they, wow, you've got customer concentration there. Wow, you get all your stuff from one supplier. Wow, you're a one-trick pony on your product or services. People start to look at that and go, there is a risk profile with this business that, while we understand it, we're nervous that if we bought it and one of those risk profiles showed itself, we would be out of business. So where to start? So our suggestion is on this, start by just taking a look at your business, at the relationships in your business, customers, suppliers, and staff. So do you have people on your staff that they, like an individual who owns a relationship? Who owns a relationship with a referral source, with a supplier, with a customer? Do you have that one source supplier that if the supplier changes your mind, you're in a difficult place? Do you have when you look at the markets that you're in, the products you produce and how you go to market, do you have dependencies on there that if they change, you'll be in difficulty? Do you have know-how that is resident in only one person, or you're relying on somebody else or some other company to provide that know-how to you? These are key dependencies that chain your hands. So here's some of our suggestions. One, on customers, let's move our customers to long-term contracts if you can, because what happens now, you have a decreased risk of losing that customer. And over a period of time now, they have to make a conscious decision to change 2 years from now, 3 years from now. Institutionalized relationships with multiple staff. So in our business, we've moved to this team model where we're touching each of our clients with many different people because, well, we provide better service doing that, but also we're moving the relationships away from the individual, or the exclusivity of the relationship, away from the individual into the relationship with our people. And then cross-train extensively. Let people know how to do everybody else's job. And so when you start doing things like this, it's good for you. It's good when you sell the business, but it's even better as you run the business, right? Because otherwise it would be like going to bed with an elephant. It's all good and great until that elephant rolls over, and then it's not so good or not so great. So here's the primary action. Identify the key dependencies and risk exposures, and then start building your protections against those. So the primary thought on the last point is grow your profitability. So when people buy a business, they might be interested in what you made in the past, but the real driver of valuation is what you're going to do in the future. And future profitability is a key driver of the valuation, and also a key risk key factor in reducing your risk of ownership. So what do we say on this one here? It's really important for you to price your products and services properly. A friend of mine bought an accounting practice a few years ago, and the practice he bought, the owner of it, had struggled financially for a long period of time. So when my friend bought that business, he went in and he had to reprice a number of the the relationships, and he increased the price. And so he was telling me this after, and he said something to me that has really struck with me. He said, Doug, he underpriced his services for years. And I said, oh, well, that sucks. He said, but you know what he really did for years? He stole from his family. And when you underprice your services, or you underprice your products, or you give stuff away, or you let customers take advantage of you, what you're doing in essence is stealing from your family and making a choice over that customer's family should have the benefit ahead of yours. And it's stealing also from the kingdom. So I would encourage you, when you're thinking about this, that unprofitable customers need to be repriced, understand the value that you're creating, and make sure that you're capturing the value in the business. The next one is look for and eliminate waste. There are so many areas. We even have some of those at our place where people are doing things, the same thing over and over and over again. And you just say, well, why don't we do it once, right? We're cutting too much of this material off. We're throwing it out, or it's going into the waste bin. Whereas if we could optimize our cuts, we could reduce our material wastage. So look for those and eliminate them. And then here is what I think is the critical part of this. Build your sales and marketing capabilities. What I've seen is so many, especially in engineering firms, engineers, they'll build this fantastic product. It has all the bells and whistles on it, and they'll rant about how great the product is, but nobody ever buys it. And why is that? Because they've not invested in sales and marketing. So really, if you want to build your business, you have to invest in sales and marketing. So what we've done at Stillwater is we've segregated out our sales and marketing from our service provision. So we've built a dedicated business development group. And it's not cheap, but if you want to scale the business, if you really want to scale the business and grow, you need to have high-end, sophisticated sales and marketing capabilities. And then when you've looked at the business, there might be strategic gaps that you need to fill, and those are easily filled through intelligent acquisitions. We talked about this earlier, but if you haven't read it, I don't get anything for this except the satisfaction of supporting a really great idea. Opportunity Leadership by Dr. Roger Parrott. And then there's that soft part of growing profitability is cultures and value. So the primary thought, future profitability is the key driver of business. Primary action, have a profit mindset that properly prices products and eliminates waste. Okay. So here's the four. Understand, step back and really understand your business. Professionalize, standardize, and move away from being all about you. De-risk, limit your significant risk exposures, and grow profits. Because profitability is the key driver of business valuation. Well, now I've covered a lot in a short period of time, so I hope that was clear. So just the last part is getting stewardship right. We've got a joyous obligation to be good stewards, and I think we need to be careful because Christ clearly taught in Luke, from everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded, and from the one who has been entrusted with much, much, much more will be asked. And we as business owners have been given much and entrusted with much. So we need to do and be about our Father's business with good stewardship. So let me just get, this will go fairly quickly. The preliminary thought is proactive preparation of the business will pay a handsome dividend. So here's some of the things we've seen. People aren't starting early enough to think about how do I transition to business. And I want to tell you something. Getting prepared is different than being prepared. We're called to be prepared, not get prepared. So that's it. The other is we dropped the ball on the 1 yard line. So I see this happen so often. People sell their business on a single offer without using a competitive sale process. When a business reaches a certain size, typically over 5 million of revenue, a competitive sale process is the only way you should sell your business. And then there has been some thought creeping into Christian business ownership that God only sells his businesses to Christians. And I tell you, I don't believe that that's true. Our Father takes a portfolio approach to his all of the investments he owns, um, and we are encouraged to count the cost and explore all of the options before we select a course of action. So thank you so much on this. I can't encourage you enough to get a team of experts engaged with you early in the journey and see how that goes. So we have a free resource here that if you want to take that QR code, scan it. We have an 8-page toolkit that could help you. And if you have any questions, there is my email address, dnix@SWMAA, Stillwater Mergers Acquisitions Advisors.com. That's so that concludes this. And so
That's
thank you.
great. Oh, wonderful. And just so that folks know, we will send out the deck
Oh,
after there's an email that will come out shortly. You'll get the deck and also that document as well. So those will both be available to you as links in that email that will hit your inbox here shortly. So you'll have those to take a look at. So Doug, thank you. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for that information. So let me ask you, as far as this, that M&A space, most of the time when we think of mergers, acquisitions, we're not thinking spiritual thoughts around that, right? So
yeah.
probably some of us are wondering, what are the challenges that you face in sustaining those spiritual values, those kingdom values while you work in this space?
For me, I've generated a great boldness in
Hmm.
this. I think the biggest challenge for me today is taking a young team of 20 and 30-year-olds
Hmm.
and encourage them into that fullness of experience that I've taken many, many more years to get, and uh, and just helping them to walk in that, because um, and I think if I can be successful in that, then it changes everything
Hmm.
in
Yeah.
the market. In the marketplace, yeah, I just stand up, and
Hmm.
just say no. Like we have a very strong value set, an ethics set, and everybody in the team can say, "I don't feel that's right. Let's not do it." And we all gather around and
Yeah.
listen.
Yeah. And it goes back to establishing that value set, as you stated early, that was established from the beginning very clearly. This is who we are. This is where we stand, and so then it's known.
Yeah,
Helps
that's right.
everybody. That's great. So important. So, what advice would you have for owners who might be feeling like you're kind of overwhelmed with the whole thought of moving into this process and where to really begin?
Um, it's not complex, like the suggestion, like take it a small step at a time.
Hmm.
Go away for a weekend and just say, what do I really know about my business? Right? Get a business canvas, get a profit tree, and just spend a Saturday morning, all day Saturday, all day Friday, whatever it is, and just go through it and say, just let me start organizing my thoughts. Praying, Lord, I don't know how to do this. As you taught the farmer, would you teach me?
Hmm.
And there's no perfect one right answer, but then you start and then you look at, let me look at this one process. Okay, let me look at this one relationship and start doing these things one step at a time, right? Get your confidence, get the team kind of on board, and try to the extent that you can to take a little bit of a step back from your business,
Hmm.
right? So that you're not working 80 or 90 hours a week
Yeah.
in the business and you're not spending any time on the real high value stuff on your business.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and by the way, greetings to all of you that are here. I've been watching some of your comments and questions come in, so thank you so much, Andrew, Lo, Hudu, Safandi in Africa, others of you from South Africa, from Cape Town. Great to have you here. So, one of the questions that just popped in here from Barry Brown, a wonderful friend of FCCI over in the Carolinas, and Barry asked the question: is maximizing the sale price always God's will? How do we balance all the other aspects of the business, the value, the impact with sale price?
Okay. So here's how I deal with that, Bear. It's a great question. Um, I think you have an obligation under stewardship to know what the maximum sale price is. Okay, to know what it is, and then to have options as to how what you're going to do with the business, right? So, and I use this example. Let's say you had a business you could sell for 300 million at the maximum price, or 150 million at to the party you want. Well, there's a $150 million delta on that, and that's the price of your decision. You might well say, huh, I wonder if it would be better to take that $150 million and spread it out amongst my people. What would they rather have? That owner or a pool of $150 million, right? So I think going into that with your eyes wide open and prayerfully considering, Lord, here's what I could sell it for. Here's the party I'd like to sell it to. What would you have me do? Like, and then you're doing it from an informed point of view. Too many people today are selling businesses not ever knowing what the value of the business is, not knowing how much they left on the table. And what that leads to, it leads to a lifetime of regret. So just a quick story. We're at a journey of generosity.
Mm,
And there's
yeah.
a couple there that just sold their business a year earlier for $5 million to a group of young guys who had to borrow the money to get it. And I talked to them about the sale process. They said, well, they couldn't close fast enough. And I go, really? Yeah. They said, because sales doubled from the time that they signed the letter of intent to the time we closed. Well, you know what happened? 18 months after those guys bought the business, they sold it for $15 million. Okay. So you sold it to them for five after 30 years. 18 months later, they sold for 15, right? So they might have sold it to the right people they had to, but if they got out in the market, maybe at that time it could have been worth 12 million,
Hmm. Wow. Wow.
right? That's Stuart, but that's in the kingdom. Okay.
Right. That's great. Great example. That's key, to truly keep
It
our
happens
eyes
more than what,
open. Yeah.
it happens more than what you think. Okay.
Hmm.
Because lots of people sell it on a single offer and they never really know what the value of the business
Sure.
is.
Sure. Yeah. Well, another question coming in from one of our teammates here, Steve Campbell. He asked the question: if you're preparing to sell your own company, that process of preparing your employees, when do you inform them? Is there some guidelines there that maybe you've from your experience?
Yeah, we don't tell anybody. We encourage our clients to invite just the members of the management team in to start engaging in the process. But because not every business that is listed for sale actually sells, right? We encourage not telling your staff until the day before closing, right?
Mm.
And the reason we do that is because uh, it creates uncertainty, and you don't want people to start. They're going, well, who's going to buy the business? I don't
Mm.
know. What's going to happen to me? I don't know, right? And so you want to manage that
Sure.
down towards the end, where you can say, yeah, we're selling the business to this company. Here's what the future holds for you, right? It's an easier journey for the vast majority of your staff to do that, and it's
Sure.
better for the company too.
Hmm. Right. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. There's some real responsibility there as a steward of that business, right? That we have
Yeah,
to bear in
absolutely.
mind. So there was another question here from Lindiwi out of South Africa. Doug, at what stage did you know the calling or priority was for you to be Stillwater and nothing else? Was that a light bulb moment of discovery, or was it a process of research and prayer to get there?
Well, it was the moment I got fired and I couldn't find another job. The whole, I have to tell you, the whole concept of calling and stuff like that, I think it gets obfuscated in the details sometimes. And
Mm,
I have a real simplified approach to this is what's the call of the gospel? It's surrender and
mm,
obedience, like in love, right?
yeah. Yeah.
So, what does obedience mean? Do I need to know where I'm going to be 2 years from now, or 5 years from now, or even tomorrow? No, obedience means I need to know today what to do today. I need to
Mm,
know now what to do now. And so I think as we just submit ourselves to the Lord and we say, Lord, I don't want to have a calling. I really don't. What I want to do is I want to have a life that's in full submission to
mm,
you, doing what you want me to do. And then, Lord, you can place me wherever you want, right?
mm,
So I was talking to a headhunter recently, a Christian guy, and I asked him this question, and he was stumped. I go, let me ask, if we took your skills or your criteria for hiring people, and applied it to let's find a leader to lead Israel out of Egypt. Do you think Moses would make the short list? You know? And the answer is no, right?
mm,
Moses, I don't have that calling. I can't speak. Get Aaron over here. Okay. Like it was just no, 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 I can't do this, Lord. Right. But the Lord had a better plan. And I think submission to the Lord and saying, Lord, I'm going to do today what you call me to do today. And sometimes doing today is doing something that prepares you for the future. Well, let me do today what I'm going to do today. Because so many people waste their life away waiting to find out what their calling and their purpose in life is,
mm,
right? They're just waiting. I'm waiting on the Lord to show me something great, something good's going to happen. And they've received the prophetic words about, oh, you're going to rise up and be this, or you're going to be that, or you're going to, and my oh my goodness, brothers and sisters, my heart for you is just do today what the Lord's called you to do today,
yes.
right? And just see what he does with that, right? Because if we're faithful with little,
Hmm.
then we'll be faithful with much, right? Right?
Amen. Oh,
That's
thank
a
you.
good call. But
Yeah.
I think and a lot of, and even gifting, because I think gifting is a close cousin to that.
Yeah.
And so, obedience, great availability, trumps great ability every time, right? Lord,
Yeah.
like just imagine there's someone in a wheelchair and you felt the Lord say, hey, go pray for that person to walk, right? And you go, Lord, I don't have the gift of healing. You don't need the gift of healing when you are walking in obedience, right?
Mm,
Let's just concentrate on
that's
loving
good.
Christ, knowing Christ, submitting to him, and obeying.
Mm, that
Okay.
is so good.
Put
And
me down to one on that one,
that's
okay?
fantastic. And it aligns with another question that came in from Bonnie Mock, who's out in Phoenix, Arizona. Bonnie, thanks for chiming in here. As a believer who desires God's will in every step, what would be the wrong reason to sell a business?
The wrong reason to sell the business. Well, I tell people that in times of emotional turmoil,
Mm,
hurt, despair, when
oh
you're
yeah, that's
under
good.
attack,
That's good.
um, when you're not able to properly discern,
Mm,
um, then that's the wrong reason. And here is so much of Christianity in the West has come down to an individual religion that I think we miss the benefit of
yes.
having the benefit of spiritual mothers and fathers who we can come to them and say, here's what I'm thinking. Would you help me properly discern
Mm,
this? Right? So there's that missing
yeah.
relationship. But I'll tell you a prayer that has my wife and I have found really helpful in some of those situations. And it's built around that verse that says, delight yourself in the Lord and he will give you the desires. Do you remember that verse?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so here's sometimes when I'm facing a choice, I don't know whether to go right or left. Father, I think I want to go left, okay, whatever that left is. But I don't know whether this is what you want. If this is what you want me to do, Father, would you increase the desire of my heart to do
Mm,
that? And if it's not, Lord, would you decrease the desire of my heart to do that? right?
That is such a
And
great
then it's
prayer.
amazing. It's amazing thing that happens is the Lord says, okay, because we want to line up our desires in our heart and our
Yeah.
obedience with the will of the Father,
Mm.
right? So
That's
just like
beautiful.
one of the part of the spiritual experiments for Stillwater was, can we find practical um, things that we can practically do in our day-to-day walk that help us live that fullness in Christ, right?
Mm.
And I spent more than 20 years just trying to find things that work for me, and not that I've invented on my own, but that people down through 2,000 years have done and found work for them. So
Mm. That's great.
anyway,
Well, I know we're at the top of the hour, so we will wrap up here, folks, and we'll let you get back on into your workday. But I wanted to say thank you, Chris, for stepping in, answering a question. We had a couple questions about ESOPs, and Chris Evans on your team has answered some of that there in the chat. So thank you, Chris, for that. I know we couldn't get to everything here, so but thank you for this opportunity to gain some wonderful insight, and thank you so much for your spiritual perspective and guidance as we've journeyed here together today, Doug. So thank you so much. Look forward to all that God has before us in the days to come. So blessings on
well,
you.
thank you so much. Been
Oh,
a great host.
it's been great to
Thank
be
you.
together. Thank you. Well, folks, I do want to just make mention of next month's webinar as well. So before we are done here, if you could, when that email comes out, there's a link in there to register. Would love to have you join us with Cassie Lehman as she shares about aligning values with vision. And she's going to talk about biblically responsible investing and 401k essentials of how we approach that as a Christian business owner. So that is, I think, going to be of great value to you. I know it's an area of interest. I've heard a lot of people ask questions about that in different gatherings and events around FCCI. How do we go about this process? So don't miss that. That'll be on Tuesday, the 16th of July at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll look forward to seeing you then. Thanks, you all. Have a wonderful day.